Hello, students. Welcome to our distance learning lesson number 5. Um, we only have 2 left. There's this one and there's lesson 6. This one will be rather quick. Again, we're focusing in on Algebra 1 content, HH5. Today we're going to be finding the angle measures. You've already done this and you did this in lesson HH3. Let me go back real quick. When we were doing inverse trigonometry, that is the one. Let me go back to lesson 3. This is what you were doing. You were using inverse trig to actually find the angle measure. Well, you're going to do that instead of it being written as a decimal, for instance, or a fraction. You're going to have to look at the diagram and make your own fraction or decimal. Okay, so let's not forget, here's our sine, cosine, and tangent. I'll copy this down for us. All right, let me go back down to where we're supposed to be, right here, beginning of lesson 5. Okay, so here's our sine, cosine, and tangent. Oops. And don't forget that our overarching acronym is SOHCAHTOA. So instead of, we have to do one more step. We have to find out what that fraction is going to actually be. So let's take a look. What is the angle measure of angle R? That's the question here. I actually like finding angle measures better than side lengths. I think it's a little bit easier personally. So here's angle R. I'm going to put a marking in for angle R. And the question is, what was I given? Well, I was given an opposite side, and I was given a hypotenuse side. So what trig function makes me use the opposite of hypotenuse? Well, that's a sine function. So sine of my angle is equal to, so I'm going to put sine of angle R, whoops, sine of angle R, I did it again, there we go, sine of angle R equals the opposite side, which is 7, over the hypotenuse, which is 10. So to find the measure of angle R, just do your inverse. Change these, flip them. So sine inverse of 7 over 10, see how that whole thing goes in? Equals the measure of angle R. And that's it. I'm going to say the measure of angle R equals, and I switched them. I'm going to do sine inverse. Let me bring the calculator. Want to make sure we're in degree mode. You can do your check if you want to. Sine of 30, good. Cosine of 60, good. And it wants me to do sine inverse of 7 over 10. So I'm going to do inverse sine, which it calls arc sine, of 7, and that's fine, just calls it arc sine, 7 divided by 10. I'm going to close my parentheses. You want it to look exactly like that. And we get 44.427. 44.427. 44.427. It wants it to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to focus on the 100th place. So the measure of angle R approximately equals 44.4. And that's it. I like it because you're given your sides. You just have to do either the sine inverse, the cosine inverse, or the tangent inverse of those sides. And you have to put them in the right order. If I did 10 over 7, that would have been incorrect. It was 7 over 10. All right, so we just have to go in the right order and pick the right trig function. But it's pretty simple from there on. Okay, let's go to our next one. This one is W. Okay, So it wants me to know what W is. So I'm gonna put a marking in here. W. Let me use green. Okay. What did they give me? Well, they gave me the hypotenuse. That one's pretty easy to see. They also gave me the adjacent. It's not all the way across from the triangle, right? I mean, it's not all the way across from the angle. So they gave me the adjacent. They did not give me the opposite. So adjacent over hypotenuse, that is cosine. Cosine of my angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine of angle W equals the adjacent, which is 6 over 7. So let's do the inverse. You want to, oops, it does not like when I switch around. Switch them. So cosine inverse of 6 over 7 equals measure of angle W. So the measure of angle W approximately equals, we're going to do cosine inverse. So inverse cosine of 6 divided by 7 equals 31.00. 31.00. Now we're going to round that to 31 because that is our, looking at the 100th place, measure of angle W. Measure of angle W approximately equals 31.0 or 31 degrees. Okay? I'm going to do a tangent one. Of course, I set you up with one of each. I set you up with a sine, a cosine, and now a tangent one. So it wants to know angle C. So here's angle C. So this is your opposite side and your adjacent side. Notice they never gave us they didn't give us the hypotenuse. Oh, let me make sure I'm recording my audio. I'll check later on. Okay, so they gave us the adjacent and the opposite. So the tangent of my angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. Oops. Opposite over adjacent. So the tangent of angle C equals 8 over 4. Okay, you can rewrite that. You don't have to. Just go right into finding your inverse. So tan inverse. Now 8 over 4 is 2, but you can just leave it as 8 over 4 equals the measure of angle C. So the measure of angle C approximately equals, and it's going to be tangent inverse of 8 over 4. Remember, you could have just typed in 2. Arctan of 8 over 4 is 63.434. 63.434. 63.434. And that will leave us with approximately 63.4. 63.4. And that is the answer for that. So that's your sine, cosine, and tangent inverse. I don't know, I like it. There's not too much solving. You just switch them. Again, you need the right trig function, sine, cosine, or tangent, and then you need the right order. If I did 4 over 8, I wouldn't have gotten the right answer, okay? Actually, it would have been the answer for the measure of angle A, because A would have been 4 over 8. So if I do that, if I do sine, see how that's 63, tangent of 8 over 4? Watch what happens when I do inverse tan of 4 over 8. I actually get 26.56. when added to that, you get 90 degrees because both angles have to add up to 90. So you can switch them around, but you want to make sure you go in the right order. Okay? Looks like I put another problem here. Here's a decimal one. Don't be freaked out by decimals. Just do the same thing. So here's your angle, angle X. Looks like we have an opposite and an adjacent. Okay, so tangent. It's going to be tangent of angle X equals the opposite side over the adjacent side. So then we just inverse these. So tangent inverse. Remember, that's not a -1. That's an inverse symbol of 5.2. Whoops. 5.2 over 7 equals the measure of angle X. So the measure of angle X approximately equals tangent inverse of 5.2 over 7. And we get arctan at 36.607. 36.607. And we're going to round measure of angle X approximately equals 36.6. That is to the nearest tenth. All right. One last one, and then we'll be done with lesson 5. Radicals. Of course, I want to go over this one. Don't be frightened again. It's just square roots. It's okay. The first thing we're going to do is find the angle C, and let's put a marking in for angle C. And it looks like it appears to be the opposite. Look how far away that is. And the hypotenuse, it's an adjacent side, but don't forget, it's also the longest one. It's opposite the right angle. So for this, it looks like it's going to be sine, because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to do sine of angle C equals square root of 15 over the square root of 93. And we are going to, oops, it does not like that at all. Okay, we are going to inverse these two. So sine inverse of square root of 15 over square root of 93. We are definitely going to have to be careful about how we enter that in the calculator. Okay, so we'll do that in a second. Measure of angles. Yeah. Let me try that over again. This program, I should have never updated it. Sine inverse of square root of 15 over square root of 93 equals the measure of angle C. So the measure of angle C approximately equals, it's going to be radical 15 over 93. So let's do radical 15. So I did inverse sine first. I'm going to do the square root of, what was it? 15. I'm going to close the parentheses and divide that by the square root of 93. And I'm going to close and close. Okay, there's a lot of parentheses. Let's talk about them. The first ones are on the inside here. See the square root of 15? And then there's another inside one, square root of 93. And then you have the outer ones. That's arc sine is doing all of that. So you got to be careful. You got to make sure that arc sine is doing all of that. So you have that outside one. Okay? And that is 23.6788. 23.788. 23.6788. And that to me is going to round to the nearest tenth, it says. So to me, that means we round that up. So 23.7. So 23.7 degrees. Okay? Now, knowing what you know about radicals, remember you can divide the radicals if they're in a radical. So we could have also done the inverse sine of the square root, just one square root. And we could have typed in 15 divided by 93 if we wanted to one square root. So 15 divided by 93, but then we have to close the parentheses first for that one, and we have to close again to make sure that it's doing what we're telling the calculator to do first. Do 15 divided by 93, put that under a radical, and now find that number, and now find the arc sine of that. So that would have been another one. It should be the same thing, 23.6788 and 6788. It's the same exact thing as we got earlier. Okay, so that's it for lesson 5. That's the end of lesson 5. And we only have one more lesson. So make sure you do all the tasks asked of you, and you can ask questions in Math Live or book a separate meeting or a group meeting with us during any other time of the day that we're free. Okay? All right, good luck.